Hey friends, it's Just the Gems. I'm Brandon. This is, I guess you would call it, a very special episode of Just the Gems because this is the 2,000 subscriber Q&A spectacular. I don't think I called it a spectacular originally, and I'm regretting it now because that sounds really overblown for what this is. Just me sitting down casually in my really messy basement room. Actually, I'm not crazy about how messy this is. Hang on 1 second. There we go. That's better. All right. I haven't done a green screen gag in, 8 months, so I feel like I'm owed one. Anyway, this video is to both celebrate the 2,000 subscriber milestone and to answer questions that you have sent to me about my least favorite topic, me. So I feel like this is probably going to be a little bit of a lighter video, a little more loosey and or goosey. Be honest now, how many of you clicked unsubscribe when I said loosey and or goosey? I'm trying to figure out the worst things that I can say to bring that 2,000 number down to something a little more reasonable for someone like me. But honestly, in all seriousness, I really appreciate you all watching and commenting and sharing. It's way more than I would have ever thought would be for my little channel. I still hopefully have a long way to go. I really am enjoying the way things have been going so far. I wouldn't say no to continued growth, but I'm honestly just thrilled to be here at this point. So, and that's all thanks to you. So thank you so much. Without any further ado, I feel like maybe we just get into the questions. What do you think? Let's do it. Now, I was debating back and forth whether or not I should share the names because it's mostly, people's handles, YouTube handles or Twitter handles. I don't think I'm going to, just in the off chance that somebody latches onto a handle and is weird to that person. I feel like you probably won't. I feel like you guys are cool, but you never know. So you'll know if it's your question because hopefully you'll remember asking it and you didn't send it to me in like a fugue state or something. But I feel like I've got every question that was sent my way. A couple of duplicates that, are bound to happen, but I think I've got everything covered. If I somehow missed your question, I'm really sorry if you sent it like via Pony Express or something. It just hasn't gotten here yet, and maybe I'll throw it as an addendum to another video at some point. Anyway, let's go. Okay, first question is, excluding Chrono Trigger, what's your favorite DS game? Oh boy, my favorite non-Chrono Trigger DS game. It's actually interesting. I don't even know if I would say Chrono Trigger was my favorite DS game. I think it's weird. I have strange feelings about it. I think Chrono Trigger DS is the definitive version of Chrono Trigger. It has the added content. It's fantastic. I don't think of it as a DS game. So if you had asked me my favorite DS game and didn't even mention excluding Chrono Trigger, I don't know if I would have picked Chrono Trigger, even though it's my favorite game. Anyway, I think my favorite DS game is probably The World Ends With You. That was a game that really just came out of nowhere for me, and I did not, based on the description, did not think that I would like it. Like, that is nuts, right? Like, you're controlling two characters at the same time. My brain barely functions well enough to control one guy. How am I supposed to do two? But it actually works really well, and I think one of the reasons I haven't really latched on to the Switch remake, I gave it a shot, but it just didn't feel the same. It wasn't as engaging. But yeah, I guess The World Ends With You, my favorite DS game. The weirdest game I've ever played. I played a game by, what's his name? Swery? I'm gonna look this up. Yeah, so this developer who goes by the name Swery or something, I don't know how to say it. He's an oddball, and that's like his shtick, is he makes strange things. So I don't know if this is cheating. This game is... No, I guess it's not cheating. It's just, what's the weirdest game I've ever played? And I think the answer is The Missing, J.J. McField and the Island of Memories. This is a very bizarre 2D puzzle platformer where essentially your character has to sever their own body parts in order to get through the environment, and you always are able to heal. It's very strange. It's an exploration of pain, and there's actually some really poignant social commentary thrown in there too. I just don't like the game. I did not enjoy it. I had purchased it, physical limited run, purchased it, and I played it. And I don't know if it was a combination of just not enjoying the gameplay and the fact that I was recovering from whooping cough, which apparently is still a thing in the year of our Lord 2022 or whenever I played it, 2021. But either way, I just didn't enjoy it, so I ended up selling it. But it's bizarre. So if you're in the mood for that kind of work of fiction, by all means, I say check it out. But it is very strange, and I don't know if I would call it collection worthy myself. Maybe you feel differently. All right, and this is the big one. They say, is there a backstory to my feud with Motoi Sakuraba? Well, I'm glad you asked. There is. And actually, I feel like in the time between when this question was asked, when they sent this question to me, and now, I've actually maybe resolved that feud, sort of. It's complicated. So here's the explanation. The reason that I always am crapping on Motoi Sakuraba is because his music in the Tales of games I just think it's boring. It's just so boring to me. And I realized this because when I started collecting, the first thing I collected was the Tales of series in order, and I played through all of the Tales of games. And I think I was maybe 4 or 5, maybe even 6 games in. And it occurred to me suddenly, I don't remember any of the music from any of these games, which is strange for me because most of the JRPGs that I play, they have just amazing, moving music that is still sticks with me to this day. And I couldn't think of a single song. I couldn't hum a single song. I think the closest I came was in Tales of Phantasia. There's a battle theme when you're fighting the spirits that I think gets reused in Tales of Symphonia, I want to say. And when I heard that, I was like, oh yeah, that's familiar. It's probably the best song in the series. And it's like, I don't know, a 7 out of 10. So when I realized that, I was like, what is going on here? And I kind of educated myself on who the composer is, and it's Motoi Sakuraba, and I'm like, this guy is famous. He has done some incredible scores. So what is happening here? Is he just phoning it in? And so I don't know, I just got madder and madder about it. Like, why are you phoning this in? Like, these games are top tier. They deserve soundtracks that are fantastic. And maybe, I was going to say ironically, but I hate when people use that word wrong, and I think I was going to use it wrong. I'm just going to do it. Ironically, I think one of my favorite video game soundtracks of all time is the Tales of Legendia soundtrack, which was not composed by Motoi Sakuraba. It's one of the very few that he didn't compose. But it's just an amazing soundtrack, and I'm like, how great would these games be if they all sounded like this? Well, I've come to, I guess, have confirmed a theory that I had seen floating around, that in fact, Motoi Sakuraba is intentionally not writing very memorable or fantastic music for the Tales of franchise, because that's what he's been instructed to do. He's been instructed to hold back, to not go over the top with his scores. Which, assuming that is true, A, fire the guy who made that decision. Come on, that's stupid. And B, I don't entirely let Sakuraba off the hook for this, because, I don't know, there's something about artistic pursuits where I'm like, if you are creating art, you should try to create the best art you can. There's not really a great excuse for holding back, even if that's what they're asking for. If it were me, I'd say find somebody else that is willing to do that, because I want to make good music. I don't know. Anyway, so I'm a little more sympathetic now, but I still have, I don't know, some grievances. It's a complicated relationship, like I said. What inspired you to start making YouTube videos? That's a good question. I think for 2 or 3 years prior to me starting the channel, I was watching a ton of YouTube, like to the point where I didn't feel silly purchasing the YouTube Premium, or I think it might have even been called Red or something at the time. I didn't feel silly purchasing that because I was like, I'm watching enough of this that avoiding the ads is actually going to save me time, because I was spending so much time watching ads. It's like, I'll get through videos quicker and I'll be able to get on with my day. So I was watching a lot of YouTube, and I kind of fell into watching game collecting, and I wasn't really doing that myself at the time, but I found it really fascinating. And then, for about a year, I sort of had the itch. I was like, maybe I should try it. It's a creative outlet. It could be fun. Maybe I'll hate it, but at least then I'll know. And then I kind of got disheartened, because I noticed that almost every channel, basically every video game channel that I followed, had tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of subscribers. And I was like, this doesn't, like, who's going to subscribe to me? Like, there are these channels that have all of these subscribers that are making this content so regularly, and I really can't compete with that. Should I even bother? Then one day I stumbled across a video from Orbology, Emily, Orbology on YouTube, and I saw that she had I think at the time that I found her channel, she had maybe around what I have now, a couple thousand or something like that, and saw that she had started, 8 months before. I don't know, it was a relatively new channel when I found it, and that was kind of eye-opening for me. It's like, oh, it is possible to start a channel and actually see it grow. And I mean, obviously everybody's growth is different, and there's a whole lot of factors, a lot of which are out of our control at play. But that was kind of the final bit of encouragement that I needed to say, okay, I'll give it a shot. So I think it's my YouTube consumption that really pushed me to want to do it. Do you ever plan to integrate your lovely singing into your videos? Well, I have once or twice, and surprisingly got positive feedback on it. I tend to do it ironically as a joke, because I'm timid and afraid of being too real, because then people will judge me. But you never know. The singing voice might make a return. We'll see. Are there any franchises that have been neglected in recent years that you would love to see a spiritual successor of? That's a good question. Neglected series. If you want to look at a console that created more orphan series than any other, the PlayStation 2, man. There are so many series that either started on the PlayStation 2 and then ended on the PlayStation 2, or started prior to PS2 and then ended on the PlayStation 2. And that's a strange thing, considering how popular the PlayStation 2 was. But yeah, there's a lot to choose from. I would maybe throw in for some Breath of Fire. I know they did a mobile thing that they called Breath of Fire 6, but I don't think anyone really took that seriously, and rightly so. Yeah, Breath of Fire would probably be one. I would say Shadow Hearts, but I know they are getting a spiritual successor that's been kickstarted. I backed that myself, along with the Wild Arms one. That looks interesting. That's a gamble, whether or not that's actually going to happen. So I guess I could still say that I want to see that, because I do hope that it happens, so that I don't just lose this money that I spent on it. Favorite music OST? Well, I hinted at that. I have a hard time narrowing it down to my absolute favorite. Chrono Cross is one that I will usually say in casual conversation. If somebody's like, what's your favorite game soundtrack? But I don't know. Sometimes it just depends on my mood. Chrono Cross is a pretty stable one. Chrono Trigger, of course. Xenogears is gorgeous. More recently, Octopath Traveler, Tales of Legendia, like I mentioned, is just ugh. And then most recently of all, I've been re-listening to the Harvestella soundtrack by Go Shiina, who also did the Tales of Legendia soundtrack. He is some kind of crazy genius. I don't even know how he does what he does. Some of his songs are so busy, there's just so much going on, and you would think it would sound like this cacophony of nonsense, but it all comes together in such an amazing way, and he's a genius, and I could gush about him all day. So I'm going to say right now, subject to change, but right now my favorite OST is Harvestella by Go Shiina. Other hobbies besides gaming. I guess YouTube maybe counts. Video editing and things like that. I enjoy making things. I'm a writer. I've written books, short stories, things like that. And I don't do that as much anymore, because I'm spending a lot more time making YouTube stuff. But yeah, I think just creative pursuits like that. Also making music. I make all the music on my YouTube channel, including whatever song you're hearing in the background right now. Because, well, that was primarily because I got sick and tired of trying to find license-free music, and I would find a completely license-free, free to use, and then I would post the video, and then it would get struck because some automated bot would be like, this belongs to Sony Music, and I'd have to file a claim. It was nonsense. I'm like, I'm tired of dealing with this. I'm just going to write my own. Which all of that music is free to use, by the way. I have a SoundCloud. You can find it there if you feel like it. But yeah, I just wanted to make music that was free and not going to cause me or anybody any problems. So yeah, so that's probably, actually, between YouTube and music, those are probably my two outside gaming hobbies. Future video ideas or plans. Well, I would like to return to my Wii U experience series. I only did 2 episodes of that, and they did so poorly that I sort of got disheartened and put it aside. I would like to return to that because one of the things that I set out to do when I started collecting Wii U games was I was like, I want to collect every single Nintendo-published Wii U game because that's an achievable goal. And for the most part, if Nintendo publishes a game, it typically doesn't suck. There are exceptions, but typically it doesn't suck. So I was like, that seems like a decent thing to do for the Wii U. So I've gone quite a long way towards that, and I wanted to do a video documenting like a mini review of each one of those games. I don't know, maybe there's just no demand for that now. If you want to see that, if you want to see more of that, let me know in the comments. But I think that I would like to eventually get back to that. It's just a matter of when, how much demand there is for it. I don't know. We'll see. Some of my favorite video game characters. I don't want to be basic, but the cast of Chrono Trigger is just etched into my heart. They're all in there, and just the beautiful experience of that game. It's hard for me to separate my feelings of, being a teenager playing that game and just falling in love with it, and, grown up elderly Brandon, reflecting on it and thinking about all the other amazing games that have come out with amazing characters. Probably my favorite video game characters. If a cast of Chrono Trigger, sorry, that's basic. And cats or dogs? Well, I'm a dog person, and that's mostly a result of being just so severely allergic to cats. So I grew up with a disdain for cats that I don't think they deserved. They did not do anything to earn my ire, but I was so allergic that I just couldn't be anywhere near them, and I always felt so miserable whenever I had to be near them. So you can see how maybe my young brain made that association. As an adult, I think cats are great. I just still can't spend too much time around them. But my 2 little chihuahuas are sort of like cats. They're small and cute. So, yeah. What are some games or series that you've been into outside of RPGs since childhood? Oh, yeah. I mean, a lot. Again, I sound so basic, but Super Mario Brothers was my very first video game when I was, I think, 3, something like that. And I've, loved the Mario series ever since. I've owned every game in the Mario series. Mainline, I don't think I've ever owned Mario Teaches Typing or whatever, but you think you'll forgive me that. Sonic as well. Really, the only 2 platformers that I like are Mario and Sonic. I did not really get into any other, platformers, either 2D or 3D. I don't know why that is. I guess I just spent too much time with JRPGs. But yeah, Mario and Sonic are 2 series that I just have loved forever. Sonic, particularly in the 2D games, I have not really delved too deeply into the 3D. I have the 2 Sonic Adventure games on Dreamcast that I will eventually get around to playing. But yeah, it's primarily a Sonic 2D and Mario 2D and 3D kind of guy. That's who I am. Oh, and also anything by Naughty Dog. Their recent, Uncharted. The Uncharted series is phenomenal. The Last of Us is phenomenal. I love their stuff. They are very, very good storytellers, and I'm crazy about them. So, what is my favorite snack and drink? I'm going to say my favorite snack is apples and peanut butter. There's something about the sweet tart with the savory. It's got to be the crunchy peanut butter too. Give me them chunks. But yeah, the sweet and the savory just mixing together. It's my favorite taste, and I just love it. If I ever became allergic to peanuts, I would be the saddest boy in the world because I just love peanut butter. Favorite drink? I need to stop because apparently aspartame gives you cancer or something. I don't know what's going on, but those Mountain Dew energy drinks, I've been living on those for like 3 years now, and it's not good. Objectively, it's bad what I'm doing to myself, but I love those things so much. So I think those are my favorite right now until I can break the habit. What is one of my most anticipated games coming out either this year or in 2024? Most anticipated game. I would say it's probably between The Legend of Nalyuta Boundless Trails, because I'm a massive Trails fiend, or East 10. So basically Falcom's releases. I don't know if we're going to get East 10 in 2023. It may be 2024. So yeah, I would say between the two of them, Falcom has got me pretty well covered in the anticipation department. What's my favorite childhood gaming memory? This is sappy, but I think I shared this in my Christmas gaming memory reflections, but it bears repeating. I think like 24 people saw that video. So my favorite gaming memory was Christmas morning when I was, I don't know, must have been 5 or 6. I don't know. I was really young. And I remember coming downstairs. I lived with my mom and my grandma at the time. And it was, just a billion presents. And obviously, like 99% of them were for me because I was the spoiled little kid. And I received both Castlevania 3 and Ghostbusters 2. And obviously one of those games is fantastic, and the other one is Castlevania 3. No, I'm just kidding. Castlevania 3 is a masterpiece. Ghostbusters 2 is garbage. But I was such a Ghostbusters kid. I had the Plasma Ecto whatever pack and the Ghost Trap and all the cars and toys and everything. Love Ghostbusters. So Ghostbusters 2 I was super excited to get. And Castlevania 3, I liked Castlevania 1 and 2. I never beat them because I was just a dumb little kid, but I loved them. So I remember, getting those and just being so excited and just hyped up and running upstairs to where the TV was with the Nintendo. And I think I played Ghostbusters 2 first because, again, Ghostbusters kid. And, those memories are so strong despite being so long ago. I have barely any memories from my childhood, especially that age, but just very, very strong, acute, powerful memories there. What is your favorite Yasunori Mitsuda song? Oh boy. I feel like maybe people would expect me to say Scars of Time. And maybe at one time it was. But right now, I'm going to say that it is the ending theme to Radical Dreamers as remade on the Chrono Cross Radical Dreamers Edition vinyl. A Vow of Wind and Dreams, it's called. That song is just absolutely gorgeous, and it's one of the, I think maybe the only song from Radical Dreamers that he didn't remake in some way for the original release of Chrono Cross. So I was so happy when he redid it and with full vocals and everything and put it on the vinyl. It's just a gorgeous song. Even with the Super NES sound chip, it's gorgeous, but done up the way it's done, it's just amazing. Which musicians inspire the style you use in your self-composed backing tracks? Well, honestly, it's probably Yasunori Mitsuda. He's definitely the biggest one. Nobuo Uematsu is also a big influence, has been a big influence on me since I was 10 or 11 when I started kind of messing around on the piano. And yeah, I feel like both of them together sort of merged in my mind and kind of created the hybrid that my particular sound is. I mean, I've listened to a lot of music since then, and I'm sure little bits and pieces of things get in there from people like Sufjan Stevens or other more modern, pop or rock or whatever. But yeah, I think probably Mitsuda and Uematsu are the two biggest ones. Chrono Trigger 2 or Shining Force 4? Chrono Trigger 2. Come on. You know what I'm going to say. Frog or Robo? Okay, that's actually that's a tough one. They were two characters that I never actually really had in my active party when I didn't need to. Not that I didn't like the characters, I just preferred other ones. Oh boy, if I had to choose, I guess I would go Magus. No, I'm just kidding. Probably Robo. If I had to be stuck on a planet full of only one creature, would I rather it be the News from Chrono Trigger, the Jogurts from Shining Force, or the Mr. Saturns from Earthbound? I would go with the News because the News are the beginning and the end of everything, according to that dude in Chrono Trigger. So that seems cool. I'd like to have them around. Can you write me a limerick? Yes, I think I can. There once was a fellow named Tony, whose favorite food was bologna. He ate it on wheat as a now and then treat until he got kicked by a pony. Who is your favorite JRPG protagonist? Boy. Not Chrono, that's for sure. That dude don't say nothing. It might be Terra from Final Fantasy VI. It might be Noctis from Final Fantasy 15. It might be Clive, actually, from Final Fantasy 16. He's pretty great. That's a lot of Final Fantasy protags. I guess I feel like they do protagonists the best. I don't know. Maybe Alphen from Tales of Arise. He's kind of underrated. He's pretty great. Here. I remember you saying that you lived in or near Chicago. What are some of your favorite things about Chicago? Well, not the weather. Let's just get that out of the way. The weather is terrible. The fact that people live in and around Chicago is a testament to how great Chicago is, because nobody in their right mind would live here if it wasn't great, because the weather is just atrocious. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'm a fan of the deep dish. I love the stuffed pizza. I know some people kind of dismissively refer to it as lasagna. That's fine. Whatever it is, I think it's delicious, and I really enjoy it. The city itself is great. I mean, there's obviously so much to do. It's ginormous, and the cultural, there's so many cultural events and things to go and do and see. And I'm in close proximity to it. I'm not in the city itself, just maybe 20, 25 minutes outside. So it's nice to be able to just hop in the car, hop on the train, and be downtown and be able to do all that stuff, and then still be able to retreat to the suburbs where it can, it's a little more quiet. What made you love JRPGs? What about them do you love? And what game made you a fan? The thing that made me love JRPGs, I think the first thing that made me love them, because obviously as JRPGs improved over the years, there was more to them and there was more to love. But I think the thing that made me love them from the beginning is just the sense of adventurous exploration. So my first JRPG was Dragon Quest 1 for the Nintendo. I think I got it free from Nintendo Power. They sent a copy to everybody because they're we have too many of this game. What do we do with it? And also American gamers didn't really know what console RPGs were. It was kind of a new thing. So, this was just a landmark moment for me. I never came close to beating that game. I would wander around and get into fights and die, but sometimes I would find a cave and I would explore the cave, and sometimes I would find a new town, and just the sense of exploration and just how big it was, right? When you grow up on Super Mario Brothers and you've got 32 levels and then that's it. Then you're done. I mean, you can keep playing, but you're done. You've seen everything that the game has, and just the fact that this world was so huge just blew my mind. And then as time went on, I played games like Final Fantasy IV, and there was amazing music and well-defined characters and just really moving epic stories. Everything built on top of that, but at the base it was just this sense of adventurous exploration. Curious how you would rank the Trails series. Oh boy. Which Trails game do I put in last place? What subset of the fan base do I tick off? That's a good question. I might save this one. I think after I finish Reverie, I may do a Trails ranking video, just for the express purpose of angering, whatever subset of the fandom I choose to put in last place. Yeah, I think I'm going to save that one. That's a good idea, and I think I'm going to make a video out of it. Stay tuned. What's your biggest game disappointment that everyone else seems to love? This is controversial, and please hear me out before you rage click away from the video. But I think that I would say it's Final Fantasy XIV. And hang on. I'm not saying Final Fantasy XIV is a bad game or that I hate it. Just that I have such a hard time getting into MMOs that there's a lot there in Final Fantasy XIV that I really want to experience. And I think I'm disappointed that I don't have the wherewithal to get past the MMO-ness of it to experience that, if that makes sense. So really, I'm more disappointed in myself than I am in the game. But I would say that qualifies as an answer to the question because everybody is crazy about Final Fantasy XIV, the critically acclaimed MMORPG that you can play a free trial up to level 40. It's an amazing game by all rights, and I should love it, being a Final Fantasy fan. And I have barely touched it, and that's disappointing to me. What's your biggest game guilty pleasure that everyone else seems to hate? Well, that's probably Final Fantasy 13. So I don't usually think of things in terms of like guilty pleasure because I don't know, if you like something, just like it. It's fine, Other people might not like it and they may give you a hard time about it, but whatever. Like it's just we only get one trip around this crazy life, and I'm just gonna do the things that I enjoy as long as they're not hurting anybody. I'm just gonna enjoy those things that I enjoy. So I think that Final Fantasy 13 gets a ton of hate from most people. I would also put 15 in the same category, and I actually like 15 quite a bit more than 13, so why didn't I pick 15? Because I'm an idiot, that's right. But yeah, 13 and 15 are just, they're not very well liked by the broader community, and I love, especially 15, I just love that game so much. It means so much to me. Like I felt like I really saw myself and my friendships in those characters, and that was a cool feeling. Like, having a hero that's not some, big, strong warrior. He's just some guy. I mean, he's Prince or whatever, sure, but like with his friends, he's just some guy, and something about it just felt very relatable to me. And I adored it. So yeah, 13 and 15. What is the perfect gateway RPG for newcomers? Yeah, that's a good question. I guess it depends on what you mean by newcomer. If somebody is new to video games in general versus somebody who's played a lot of other types of games and just hasn't really played RPGs, that's a different answer. I will say for the complete newcomer, I usually recommend Chrono Trigger to people because it's not that long, it's not super difficult, and it's not it's not super grindy. It doesn't have a lot of the downsides that a lot of classic JRPGs have. So I usually recommend that for somebody who's just never really played video games and is curious to try something like a JRPG. For somebody who has played video games and is good at video games and enjoys them, but has never really played JRPGs, I would probably push them towards the Tales series as a gateway, because it still has that sort of fast-paced, like action-based combat, but it is otherwise completely a traditional JRPG, from the way you manage your party to, visiting towns. Like it's very standard in every other way except for its combat. So I think that's a great stepping stone. And of course, nowadays, more and more JRPGs out of the box are just action games like Final Fantasy 16. I still consider it a JRPG because the criteria to determine whether something is a JRPG or not that stringent. It's actually pretty open. So, but a game can be a JRPG and an action-based game. I think that's fine. I'm comfortable living in that divide. That's fine. So, but the Tales series, there's a lot there. There's a lot of different types of stories told in that series, and I feel like anybody who wants to get into RPGs, who has some gaming experience, there's a Tales of game that you can find that you will probably enjoy. What is your take on the Dragon Quest series? What is my take on it? I enjoy it quite a bit. I have not played as much of it as I'm sure other JRPG YouTubers have, if I'm being perfectly honest. I've played 1 and 2 in their entirety. Well, I skipped out on the last dungeon of 2 because it was too hard, but I watched the ending, so we're good. 3 I skipped. 4 I played most of. 4 I finished. 5 I played most of. I have not played 6 or 7. Played a little bit of 8 back in the day when it came out on PS2. Haven't played 9. 10 is, MMO in Japan. And 11 I played in its entirety. So, of what I've played, it's like comfort food for me. They aren't necessarily the deepest stories, but the characters are great, a lot of fun, and the worlds are creative and colorful. And I mean, especially like get into Dragon Quest XI, it's hard. Like, how do you not have a smile on your face playing that game? It's just so charming and wonderful. So I am fully intending to, go back and play the Dragon Quest games that I've missed, and starting probably with 6 and then work my way into 7, which I've heard is kind of a hard one to get into. We'll see. But at some point, they are going to become a priority for me, and I'm going to make my way through the rest of them because I've never not enjoyed a Dragon Quest game. Do you ever think about streaming? It could be very fun to play some classics or more obscure JRPGs with everyone. I have thought about it. I've done it a couple of times, closer back to when I started doing YouTube, so I didn't have a ton of subscribers then. It might be worth looking into doing it again, even just, a few times a month even. I do enjoy it. Like when I did do it, maybe I'd only have 5 or 6 people in the chat, but it was still a lot of fun. So I definitely see the appeal of it. So stay tuned. We might do something like that. What is the game that made you fall in love with RPGs other than Chrono Trigger that made me fall in love with them? So I mentioned Dragon Quest as the game that kind of like lit the fire. But really the game that pushed me over the top and made me realize this is the kind of game that I like. This is it. Like, this is my thing. Was Final Fantasy IV. As, coming out when it came out in America as Final Fantasy II on the Super Nintendo. I picked it up having not really played Final Fantasy. I think I saw a friend of mine play it at his house one time, but I'd never really played the original Final Fantasy. But when I saw that box and it said Final Fantasy II, I was like, hey, I know that's that kind of game that I like because I saw somebody play it. And so I said, let's get that one. So we got it. And I remember just reading the manual on the way home, which was a fun thing to do back in the day. I don't know if you're old enough to remember sitting in the car and reading the instruction manual on your way home. Back when I didn't get sick reading in cars, I guess. But everything about that game just blew me away. I could not believe that this was a real thing. And the Super Nintendo was pretty recent still, so just like the quantum leap in gaming from the NES to the Super NES, just coupled with the fact that this game was so amazing. Final Fantasy IV is the answer to your question. Have you ever parted ways with a game and regretted it? Yes. I think a lot of them are Dragon Quest games, actually. Yeah, because, kind of in general, when that happens, you get going and you put it aside, and then a week goes by or 2 weeks, and it's like, oh, I don't remember where I was. I don't remember what was going on in the story. So probably Dragon Quest V is the one that stings the most, and I want to play in its entirety, but it's like, I don't want to start all the way over, but if I start from where I left off, I have no idea what's going on. The same with Shin Megami Tensei 4. I tried 2 or 3 times to get into that game, and I got as far as, the underground city and got lost, and I just couldn't do it. And I really wanted to play it because people rave about that game. And I enjoy SMT and the Persona games and things in that sub-series, but I just could not figure out what to do, and I was so bored trying to figure it out, and I don't know, I can't get back into it. So yeah, I would say those are my regrets. So the question is, what do you do for a living? That is very boring, but I'll give you the quick rundown. I operate a company that does Medicaid billing for public schools in Illinois. So When practitioners in a school setting have to provide special education services for students with special needs, they're able to actually bill the federal government for Medicaid to cover a portion of that cost of care. And so we facilitate that for the school districts. So if you're still awake, that's essentially what I do as my day job. Oh, this is an interesting one. How involved were you in Operation Rainfall during the years of 2010 to 2012? It is to my great shame and sadness that I have to admit that the years of 2010 to 2012 were some of my peak non-gaming years. I still played games. I had a Wii, and I was, tangentially aware that Operation Rainfall was happening, but I did not really participate in it. And like I say, I regret it now because, I'm glad for what was accomplished there, and I have the games in my collection now that were, able to be brought over because of that. But I honestly, that was just when I really wasn't playing games almost at all, just very little. I was doing other things. I don't even know what I was doing. What was I doing? Anyway, what is your favorite RPG series? That is, without a doubt, the Trails series. I love the Trails games. I've talked about that a little bit here on the channel, and I did a video recently about the best way to get into, the best starting point for the Trails series. Hopefully I remembered to put it up there. And yeah, the long form storytelling that goes on, the character development over, a dozen games now at this point, it's just astonishing what they've been able to do. And there's aspects of it that I don't love, of course. I think it's gotten increasingly gross in terms of weird fan service stuff that's not necessary and it's just stupid in my opinion. But just the storytelling is still so good. Are you excited for the Super Mario RPG remake? I am. So Super Mario RPG was just a big darn deal when I was a teenager. I loved that game to death. And the fact that it's coming back in what looks to be kind of like a 1-to-1 remake where they just are literally remaking the game with these much improved assets. I think that's fantastic. That's a great way to bring the game into the modern era without, diluting it or ticking off the fans, I guess. But I'm very excited for it. In general, how much time would you say you spend playing video games on an average day? It's so hard for me to gauge that because an average day, my days are so different from each other. Days when I'm working on a video, that's pretty much consuming my evening, So that's kind of leaves gaming time to a minimum. I would say on days that I play, I really have to limit myself to 2 hours, maybe 3 if I'm super engaged, because I start to feel anxious if I'm just sitting in one place and playing a game for too long. I don't know why. I feel this kind of vague uneasiness, I should be doing something else, and I feel guilty about it. So that's, just a personal problem. But that does tend to create sort of, an artificial limit that I put on myself. So I would say on a gaming day, average amount of time would be 2 to 3 hours. But overall, it's probably closer to an hour on an average day, just because of all the other stuff I've got stuffed into my evenings. Do you ever play racing games? If so, what's your favorite? I mean, yes. So I played Mario Kart quite a bit. I've been into just about every Mario Kart that's come out. Big fan of karting with my pal Mario. Other than that, I played a bit of Gran Turismo. I have the PlayStation VR 2, so I really want to get the Gran Turismo 7 because apparently the VR mode in that is just astonishing. So yeah, as far as arcade, goofy fun racing, Mario Kart all the way, and simulation, more serious racing, I would be more into Gran Turismo. How did you get to be so awesome, and can I have your autograph? Okay, well that's very nice, but I will identify this. This is my uncle that posted this one. So, no, you can't have my autograph. Sorry, Uncle Jeff. But thanks for reaching out. Anyway, I think that I covered everybody's question. If I missed yours, again, I'm so sorry. I scoured all of the places that I figured that they might be. They were in a few different places. So if I did miss yours, please forgive me. Drop it in the comments, and I will at least try to respond to your comment and let you know the answer there. Thank you all once again. 2,000 subscribers, or whatever it's at now, 2,100 or something as of this recording, is it's crazy to me. It doesn't compute. And I know in the grand scheme of YouTubers, I'm still really tiny, but it's just like mind-boggling to me. So thank you so much. I really appreciate, you watching the stuff that I make and liking and commenting and sharing and all that good stuff. It just means so much to me to feel like people are out there watching and listening and wanting to have a conversation, and that's super cool. I've met so many awesome people online, from doing YouTube, people that I never would have met because they live nowhere near me, and it's just very, very cool. So thank you once again for watching, for doing all the stuff that you do on YouTube. You're all the best. Anyway, until next time. Bye.